Hi, I'm Patrick Pierce, professional angler, and I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about gear ratio selection on your reels for different styles of fishing. And it's almost backwards from what you might be thinking. The slowest reel, the 5-to-1 zillion, what we call the crazy cranker, I only use it for the deep diving crankbaits. And the reason I go to the 5-to-1 reel, it has a slower retrieve. People would likely think that, oh, you got a diving bait, you want to reel it real fast. But actually that slower retrieve reel has a little more power, a little more cranking power to help you pull this bait all day. These baits have a lot of resistance to them, and that extra power really helps you get maximum depth out of those 6XD Strike Kings, and this is a 5XD Strike King, great deep diving bait. So for those, would go with the crazy cranker, the 5-to-1 ratio. Now, for most of my moving lures like spinner baits and buzz baits and horny toads and swimming jigs, a lot of people think, well, that's when you want your fastest reel. Absolutely not. If you go to the 7-to-1 reel with those types of baits, you're actually going to overpower those baits. It's easy to forget that you have such a fast reel and you just start reeling and your spinner bait's burning along. And there are times when burning the spinner bait's a great technique. But most of the time we want to slow that bait down a little bit. We want that buzz bait just sort of creeping across the surface, or we want to slow roll that spinner bait up next to logs, jerk baits, topwater baits, all those sorts of baits. For those, I go to the 6-3-to-1 zillion reel. It's just a medium retrieve. It's got a good balance of power and speed, but it doesn't overpower the moving baits like the spinner baits and the buzz baits that I'm fishing on this reel. Now, the 7-to-1 reel I use on all what I call my touchy-feely baits, my flipping baits, my Carolina rigs, my Texas rigs, my football jigs, any bait that I'm working with a rod. And in that case, the reel's just there basically to store a line and reel in fish. That's when I go to the 7-to-1, which actually picks up about 30 inches of line. The 6-3-to-1 picks up around 27 inches of line every time you turn the handle, and the 5-to-1's about 20 inches of line. I'm using the fast reel just to save time. When I'm reeling my flipping bait in, I pitched up next to a stump, I didn't get a bite, I want to make that next pitch. That 7-to-1 flipping reel just cuts down on the time it takes me to get that bait back and get it to the next stump or to the next mat. The same thing if you're out there Carolina rigging. A lot of times you're dragging that rig and you feel that thump and you know you got a bite, but you're way up and you want to come down to set the hook quickly. That 7-to-1 ratio picks that slack line up a lot quicker. So I'm using the 7-to-1s on techniques that have a lot of slack line where I need to be able to pick up line quickly. One of the big misconceptions about the high-speed reels, the 7-to-1 reels, is that they lack enough power. You can see here I've got this on my mat punching rod with 65-pound braid. We've been flipping hyacinths all morning. These reels have plenty of power to get a fish out of heavy mat. The way we've accomplished that at Daiwa is we're using bigger gears. Back 10, 15 years ago when 7-to-1 reels first came out, the designers were trying to use the same gearboxes we use. So we had a really big drive gear and a really small pinion gear, and they would tend to bind up. But that problem was solved a long time ago. We're using the oversized gears. We've got a lot of ball bearings in these reels to keep the drivetrain nice and straight to where it won't bind up. Plenty of power. I've caught plenty of 7, 8, 9-pound fishes flipping mats with the Team Daiwa Zillion reel and never had a problem pulling them out with the 7-to-1 ratio. So that's my flipping reel.